Welcome to Nebraska Shoot Around. Anna Bellinghausen and Mike Sautter joining you to talk some Nebraska men's and women's hoops. Mike, let's actually start with the men's side. Team is 6-1, receiving votes in the polls. What have you liked from that team so far in their start?
Yeah, 6-1. Should have probably beaten a good St. Mary's team, who actually did pretty well in their MTE that they played in over the break. Lost to Arizona State, but St. Mary's is going to win a lot of games, and that's something. After Nebraska lost that game, people were kind of, I can't believe it. Like, St. Mary's is good, and they're old, and they're really well coached, and they've been really good for a long time now. So it's not a huge loss. It actually will probably kind of help them a little bit, because St. Mary's is going to win 20 to 25 games and be really good in their league, and them and Gonzaga, I guess, in the league. So it's not that big of a deal. And then follow that up with a win at Creighton, which, boy, if you're Nebraska, you need Creighton to start winning some games. Because that's going to be your best non-conference win. You need Creighton to be good as far as all the metrics and net rankings and Ken Palms and all those things. So you need Creighton to kind of find a way. A Creighton win over Kansas would go a long way for obviously Creighton and but Nebraska in particular too. But Nebraska found a way to take the lid off, and from three is what I mean. So after South Dakota, after the Creighton game, they were 32 of 124 from three. Not great. And then after South Dakota, they made 13 threes, and they were 45 of 157. So it's been better. They've been close to that 40% mark from three, and that's because of Connor Essegian. Connor Essegian against South Dakota and North Florida combined is 12 of his last 23 three-point attempts. South Dakota, he had a career high 29, 22 against North Florida. And he's this year's, I guess, version of Keisei Tominaga. They are totally different players, right?
You won't stand for the comparison.
Yeah, people are trying to compare that, and I get, like, with numbers and stuff, it's the same, but they're not the same. You can't buzz Connor around like you could Keisei and run him off a bunch of screens and just he can create and stuff like that. They got to be a little more creative with him, and they are. One play he made, or 1 3 he made in the second half yesterday, was off of a sideline out of bounds in front of their bench, and they double screen for him, and boom, cashed it off balance in the corner 3. So Connor's shooting it extremely well. It's what the team needs. He's been great in these last 2 games, and got the start because Berke Buchtengel was out against North Florida. And the way they handled North Florida was pretty impressive. It was over basically from the jump. It was an 18-1 run. It was a 10-0 run, and then that turned into an 18-1 run. They're playing really well right now, and we'll see if they can keep it up. Bryce Williams is playing well and getting his shots. The depth has shown a lot. I mean, Cale Jacobson made a couple of great plays, just smart plays, extra pass stuff. Look to see him maybe get more time in the rotation. I asked Coach Hoiberg in the postgame about Cale after North Florida, and he said, yeah, like, he's going to play. And this is actually the second time I've asked him this year about Cale, just because his impact is, he's not going to score 10, but he'll give you, 5 to 10 minutes maybe in a game and do pretty well. And he's like their third 5-man too, which is weird. But he just kind of knows everything. So if they want to go to super small lineup, they can go to him. Offensively, they've been really, really good these last handful of games. So in the Creighton game, it was a defensive game plan. It was a defensive game. They had to slow the pace down. It worked to a T. And then against South Dakota and North Florida, they were able to score a lot of points and get shots. But that's also the opponent wanting to play that way. So ball movement was impressive. They assisted against North Florida on 22 of their 40 made baskets. That's a super high number. They only had 6 turnovers to 22 assists. That's a total flip from where it was at the beginning of the year. I think the guys are just getting more comfortable with each other and what each other can do. All the new pieces and new faces and stuff was kind of the excuse or reason at the beginning of the year. But again, I kind of go back to that's kind of crap, because you are practicing with each other since June. Like you
Right.
know you should know each other. But in a game, it's a little bit different. So I understand that. But bigs are playing well. Braxton Mia's, they're finding him at the rim more. They're making it a point to go to him more at the rim on some lob actions and getting him some dunks and stuff. He's never going to just make a shot. If he pulls up from it's probably not a good idea.
Like Ryan Cochran.
Yeah, no, it's not a good idea. And he's not Rink Mass who can step out into three, all those things. But he's been pretty good. And Morgan kind of spelling him and giving him a break has been good too. But that Buchtengel injury, which is a groin strain, is hard. Those are hard. Those are hard to figure out. So we'll see, going forward what that looks like. And they have Michigan State coming up. They have a nice schedule here where their first two games are tough games you're on the road at Michigan State, and then you host Indiana, but that's you basically have a week.
Yeah.
Like you have 2 games in 2 weeks. That's pretty good. So nice time to kind of get healthy and healed up and get some focus going into the start of conference play.
So fans are wondering, is Nebraska basketball the real deal?
Oh, that's a tough question. I think they're pretty good. I said at the beginning of the year, I think that they're going to be that kind of bubble, area if they only lose 2 non-conference games. Well, so far they've only lost 1, and going to Hawaii coming up over the holidays or around Christmas, before Christmas, is going to be key. If you can get a Murray State win, that's the one you look at of those teams, and they play them first. If they can beat them, now you only have 1 non-conference loss.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good against a good St. Mary's team. I think they're pretty similar to what they were last year, unless things just fall apart in conference play. But the formula is what it is. It's the same as last year. We said it before the season. You lose a minimum of 3, like maybe 2 non-conference games at the most. You're in a good spot. Then you protect home court as much as you can in the conference or in league play, and you're at 10-10, or maybe it's 9-11, right around 500 in the league. Maybe you can steal a couple road wins, but you have to kind of protect home court. You got to give yourself a little wiggle room to lose 1 or whatever at home. Big Ten looks to be pretty tough. The net rankings came out, and they're tied with the SEC for 11 teams in the top 50. So that's, or top 40. So that's pretty. I mean, it's pretty good league right now. And also, it's a bear with now Oregon. Has played pretty well as far as non-conference play and winning that their MTE. So you look at the schedule, it's going to ramp up here, and they kind of did it on purpose. They just ramp up to winning games. Now, I'll say this about them being for real, and I'm going to the metrics here. North Florida, that win is going to end up being a pretty good win because North Florida beat South Carolina and Georgia Tech. Mm-hmm. So, North Florida is going to be in the top 200 of the net rankings because they're going to win some league games and all of that. So it actually really helps their metrics.
And they drop 100 on them.
Yeah, it really helps their metrics. So that 100 points was the first time since they lost to North Carolina State in 2021, where Nebraska has scored 100 points. That was 4 overtime, 104 to 100 or whatever game that they lost since 2021. So Nebraska scoring 100 is a good thing, right? And North Florida kind of defensively, North Florida is really bad, but they take a lot of threes and shoot a lot of threes. But Nebraska's offense was great in that game.
All right, well, let's flip over to the women's side, a team that's also 6-1, but they're still in the top 25 now at 25. Yeah. What have been your impressions of that women's team with just that loss to Creighton?
Yeah, I mean, that Creighton loss isn't going to kill them. It's still one that they probably should have won that game. Sure. They were leading the whole game until the fourth quarter happened. Mm-hmm. It was close, right? No one got more than really a 2-score lead, or 2-possession lead. But it's one where if you look back at it, you're like, man, kind of let that one get away a little bit. Britt Prince has been great. I need to say a correction. Last podcast, I said that Creighton and Nebraska were the final two for Britt Prince. That's not true. She never put out a final two. It was just a top 6 that she put out. So that's my bad. Shouldn't have put that out there. But both those teams were in her top 6. So, but Britt and Alexis Markowski have been great. And frankly, in that Creighton game, I thought they should have just gone to 2-man game. Just don't worry about anybody else. And Alexis had her 43rd double-double now, I guess, against Kansas City. She recorded that, and Creighton, she got her 1,000th rebound, which is she's just the 6th player in Nebraska women's basketball history to have 1,000 rebounds. It's pretty cool. She's obviously an All-American candidate for a reason, and pretty good. But the Potts injury is something that they're going to have to figure out. But yes, they played really well against Kansas City, who's just okay. They didn't obviously need her, but in the Creighton game, it really, you could tell.
Needed it.
Yeah, you needed her because she can defend, and her length and in defending multiple positions, and that's something that Creighton is. They're all their players play multiple positions, so it's something that they missed her a lot, and they're going to miss her a lot on that defensive end. They're going to have to figure out a way to kind of maneuver without her, or lineup changes without her. Who's going to step up? Maybe it's Logan Nisley's probably one that you look to be that step up person, but especially in that kind of guard forward wing spot. So they're still pretty good, right? Like they get Minnesota. Minnesota's going to do one thing. I know this. They're going to play really hard.
Yeah.
So that game is, I think, Wednesday, right?
Sunday.
Sunday.
Lindenwood, then Minnesota.
Yeah, Lindenwood and then Minnesota. That's right. So that they open conference play with that game. Lindenwood, they should be able to handle pretty comfortably. But that Minnesota game is pretty key game, I think, to start. Especially, obviously, you want to protect home court in the league. But they'll be fine. I think they had some time, right, with that injury to figure things out, and that injuries aren't great, especially with a player like Potts.
And the year she was having.
Yeah, and she was killing it, and she's gonna be awesome, and big things expected of her. But the injury timing of it is actually okay. Like
it gives you a lot more time to figure things out.
Yeah, like you have some time, and you had some non-conference kind of bye games where you could kind of figure out what to do there. Just that Creighton game, it was pretty glaring that she wasn't on the court.
So I think the biggest question for Nebraska women's basketball fans is how far can this team go without a Natalie Potts on the court?
Yeah, I mean, they're still really deep. They're always going to play. Amy's always played a bunch of players. They're going to play, I guess, 9 to 10 now instead of 10 to 11. But I still think they're probably, I mean, Sweet 16-ish type of team is probably where they're at. That should be the goal, I think, this year. I think that was the goal before the season, if not maybe better. So, you have UCLA, who's now number 1 ranked team in the country. They're huge too, and really good. So USC is really good in the league. The league just is so much harder. Now, but Iowa's not quite as good. They're still ranked in the top 15 or whatever it is, top 20. So they're still going to be good. They just don't have Caitlin Clark anymore. So
that hurts a little bit.
You would think that they took a step back, but really, in reality, they haven't. But I think, depending on matchups and stuff, I think the not ceiling, but I think the goal should be to get out of the first weekend.
It's not a detrimental thing.
Yeah, no. It should be a tournament team, and depending on matchups, you could maybe make it to that second weekend.
Question is, who's just going to step up now?
Yeah, I mean, you have Britt Prince is probably going to have to be that person to take some of that offensive scoring load, and she's more than capable, obviously. And I don't know how many people can even stay in front of her. I mean, she can just get to the basket whenever she wants. So that's one of those things. Her or Allison, how healthy is she with that ankle? She can play a ton. So you have. And they're going to have to make shots too. Other people are going to have to step up and make some shots.
Yeah. Well, looking forward to it, Mike. We will talk to you and the rest of our listeners next time on Nebraska Shoot Around.